There was this quote I heard recently: all pain is psychological until death. Oh, that line is low key so tough. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I find that quote to be so tough. I'm not even gonna lie. And for those of you who still might be lost, what this quote essentially means, all pain is psychological until death. It basically means that you can basically, until you're dead, it's not over. Until you are literally dead, you are literally on your deathbed. Or even not even on your deathbed, like until you're actually dead, your life is not over. You know, this quote, it really just like puts, what like modern life in one quote, I think. At least some part of it now. Like recently where like, there's a lot of talk going around online, with the whole like I'm this many years old and I'm behind in life, and like I'm X amount of years old, and it could be any age, but like I'm specifically referring to like people younger than 25, 25, 24, 23, 22 years old, 21. I've even heard people like say 19 years old, 18 years old. Like I'm 19 years old, I'm 18 years old, and it feels like my life is over. Like it feels like, and um and it's funny because I like how this quote and this like, and that's funny how that relates, the quote with the thing I just said, because it's like I felt this for the longest time too. Like as of recently, relatively recently speaking, I really felt this where like, I was kind of in that mode where like for the longest time, after once I turned 20 years old, like keep in mind I'm 20 now. I turned 20 back in April, so it's been a few months, right? But like, the day I turned 20, which was not too long ago, um like I said, a few months back, I was kind of in this mode of like, where when I was like 14 or like 15, like let's say somewhere between that age, I was looking at my life and where I thought I'd be by the time I turned 20. And I envisioned myself as like basically like super successful, if I'm going to keep it a buck, like super, super successful, like top 1% in whatever I was doing, like or like just the best in the world in like literally whatever thing I pursued. And at the time, that was soccer. For the longest time, I was a soccer player, played for 8 years. Wanted to go pro. That was my dream up until relatively recently. The last few years, I haven't had anything like that since. And, so I've kind of been through that where, recently when I turned 20 not too long ago, like I said, I felt this where like I felt like I was behind, because when I actually turned 20, the life I thought I was going to be living by the time I actually turned 20, it wasn't there. Like it just, and it not even that it was just wasn't there. It was that it was just nowhere near close to what I imagined myself being by 20 years old. And I was in this mindset for so long, and it really made me down and like really depressed almost. But I kind of eventually, like, it was kind of like maybe around the time I started this YouTube channel, I guess you could say, I kind of just snapped out of it. And I decided, you know what, this is the cards I was dealt with. I'm age 20 now, and this is the cards I'm dealt with, and this is the position I'm now in. The more time I mourn on it, the more time I'm just gonna keep wasting. And so, um, yeah, I was in that mindset for so long, and I finally snapped out of it recently. And I started taking action. And I get where people come from, where like, oh, I'm like, maybe even just older than me, like just like, oh, I'm 25, I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm 50, maybe even. And I'm like broke, or like I don't have any like social life, or just like I don't have the life I want whatsoever. And I just feel super down and just super depressed. But it's like I was once in that point when I turned 20, and I guess you could say it's not that big of a deal, but like, it was kind of like that expectation thing for me. Like I said, when I was like when I was younger, I thought I was going to be really ahead in life by now, but I guess that's just not the case anymore. And I just got to deal with that, move on. And I got to pick myself up and just keep going. So I guess that's really my message in this video. I want to keep it super short, and that, it's not over until it's over. Like truly, I know it sounds so cliche, and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yada yada, like, but truly it is not over until it's actually over, meaning like until you're dead. There's so many examples of people that like were like maybe 20 years old, or maybe not even 20. There was like, I've seen so many examples of like people that eventually became successful but like weren't successful until like later on in life. Like we're talking 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Like, you know, people even in their 50s and 60s that like, there's people like all the way until their 50s and 60s that don't reach like very high levels of success because, you know, they just were late bloomers, or they ended up happening, that success ended up happening to them later in life. And, you know, and I get it, this concept where like, you know, I feel behind and I'm this years old, it's really more prevalent now than ever before in human history, simply because of the fact that we have social media now. You know, like I said in previous videos, social media, you've seen like all the like you basically you're exposed to the top 1% of like, you're just exposed to the top 1% of people in terms of every aspect. The most attractive people, the richest people, the people with the best lifestyles, the most accomplished people, etc., right? And you're only exposed to that, and pretty much you're only exposed to that for the most part on social media. And, you know, that really can like really like do some good damage on your mental, depending on how much time you spend on social media, or just any time at all even. Because it's like you like I said, you obviously know that everyone already kind of like knows that social media isn't real, or at least it's a portrayed life, or like 5 seconds of someone's life, you know, portrayed in a clip, you know, whatever, right, of living their best life, and it's only 1% of their entire day or whatever, right? But, you know, even though we intuitively all know that by now, it's just like your brain doesn't know that difference, so it's like you're still affected by it. And it's just like, it's crazy, man. And not to just bring up that alongside all the other problems Gen Z is facing: housing market, housing crisis, job market crisis, stock market, economy, everything's expensive. I've already brought all that up in previous videos, so I don't want to go into that. So yeah, just wanted to say that, you know, I really had no script for this, but I just want to bring this concept up of, you know, this relating that quote, all pain is psychological until death, with what's going on in today's society, with everyone, you know, saying like, you know, I feel like I'm like this many years old, and then it feels like my life is over, but truly it's not. It's truly like, I'm telling you. And I'm still going through this right now, even though I've kind of snapped myself out of it a little bit, you know, and I've started actually moving. Like my advice, I guess you could say, is just, you just need to move. You just need to move. I don't care what it is. You just have to adapt on the fly. Like, truly, like, you just need to get out of this state. If to anyone watching this that's in this state that I'm talking about, where like, if they're so doom and gloom and they feel like their life is over, and I get it, we live in hard times. I've already brought this up in previous videos, you know, everything is cooked. I'm not even gonna lie, we're living in really tough times, but what are you gonna do? You know, it's just like the same old question we're gonna keep asking ourselves. You know, what else are we gonna do? We're dealt the cards we're dealt with. This is the time we're living in. Maybe whatever situation you're in, for each specific individual watching this, there's really nothing else you could do, and complaining is just gonna keep wasting more time. That's it. Like, whether you like it or not, time is gonna keep passing. So I'd say, just anyone who's stuck in this state of, like, you know, doom and gloom, and all I have to say is just, you need to start doing something. You need to start doing something. You need to start moving. Doesn't matter how much, doesn't matter like what, like how you do it. You just need to move, because that's what's gonna get you out, you know. That's just my advice, because that's what worked for me so far. So yeah, that's all.